You're listening to Tim McKinney of ITW Evercoat. Evercoat, the brand trusted by more shops for automotive, commercial, and marine repairs than any others for almost 70 years. Bringing you continued innovations like Light Speed Repair System to streamline and improve repairs at the speed of light. Optex Filler with color-changing technology and Optex Super Build with a built-in guide coat. And now, here's Tim.
The filler's cracked. All right, so when the filler has dried out, it's become unstable. And what that will cause is the solvents that are in there to leach out, and that's why the product cracks. Whenever we hear that the body filler is cracking, we can always look to see that it has been under-catalyzed. If you want to see how to properly catalyze the product and you have access to a very high-quality scale, you're in a body shop, go to the paint side. Mix up 100 grams of the product to 2 grams of the cream hardener, or mix up 50 grams to 1 gram, and you'll get a visual cue for what the color is supposed to look like. That's really going to help you to make sure that when you mix it from that point on, you're always mixing to that continuous color. So what happens is the repair has absorbed some solvent because it wasn't fully polymerized. When it's not fully locked up, there's little gaps in there where the solvent can get down into, and over time, those solvents are going to evaporate back out, and when they do, the product will actually pull away from itself on the surface and crack, just like a lake bed will do when it's drying out, because the material is doing just that. It's drying out. And once it's cracked, it can crack all the way down into the very substrate, and it can cause some rust to start down in there. So if you see you have a repair that's cracking, probably going to be under-catalyzed, or it could be that your catalyst has lost some strength and you didn't catalyze enough because you couldn't visually see that. Good friend of mine and I were actually having this conversation the other day, and he was asking about putting it over an epoxy primer because they had one come back that was cracked and it did actually start to have some corrosion underneath of it. Putting it over the epoxy could help the corrosion from starting to become into play. However, under-catalyzing it, putting it over an epoxy, it's still going to crack. It's not going to fix that. So if you're going to put it over an epoxy, still make sure that you're properly catalyzing it. The next thing is it wasn't a conducive temperature. Usually for that is it's too hot. When we hear about the cracking scenarios and we go back to when it was applied, odds are we find out that the product was applied in some of the warmer months, June, July, August, maybe even early part of September, depending on where it was applied and what part of the country. So make sure that you're not under-catalyzing it to give yourself extra work time. And again, I'm going to show you some tricks on being able to do that so you don't have to worry about under-catalyzing the products. And as I said, it's probably because the hardener was cut back way too much or the hardener's lost its strength. So how do you fix it? Well, if it's cracked, you're going to have to take that material out and redo the repair. It's a pain in the keister, but if it's already cracked, that's telling us that that area is under-catalyzed and the rest of the material is under-catalyzed as well. So you're going to need to mechanically remove that material and then reapply the product. That's the only way you're going to be able to take care of that. The ways to prevent it, as I said, properly mix the product up, mix it at a 50-to-1 ratio, mix smaller amounts. Instead of trying to do 2 repairs at once, slow down a little bit. Good friend of mine, if he's happened to be watching this, he used to always say in all those classes, and yes, I was listening to you, the hurrier I go, the behinder I get. Well, you know what? I've realized haste makes waste. That's what he was saying. By trying to rush through the process too much, sometimes we skip steps. Sometimes we have bad habits. So maybe slow down and do 1 repair at a time on a warmer day, or maybe do those repairs earlier in the day where it's not so hot. Which brings me to the next point. Try to work at a temperature range. It's going to be around 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 to 24 degrees Celsius. As I said, all of our tech data sheets and our product informations are given within those temperature ranges. Avoid putting it over freshly applied primer. Again, some of those solvents could leach up into the product while it's curing and continue to leach out. We don't want that to happen. And store the product in a cool, dry place with the lid on tight. The reason for that is oftentimes when I see where the lid's not properly applied on the can, the product starts to dry out. As it starts to dry out, the materials that are in it that create that chemical reaction so it fully cures to polymerize, they start drying out as well. So that could be part of the issue. So always make sure you put the lid on tight. Even if you are using it through the day before you leave at night, just give the lid a bump. Make sure it's sealed up pretty good and put the cap back on the hardener. Now, as far as reading the batch codes, we've started to do some changes on how you look at the batch codes to decipher them. Prior to August of 2023, we had an older function where we had the dates on here. And I'm going to see if I can actually show for this particular camera. If you look very closely, there's a little black dot right there, and there's a number right there. That particular number would start off with a 3 for last year, and then it would go through the rest of the numbers. We had a similar way we coded them on our cans. So prior to last year, we had the coding on the cans would say a 302804. So the 3 would tell us 2023. But guess what? The 3 also told us 2013, 2003. So we've changed that. Because of that particular misfunction, we've added in an extra digit. So the old batch digits were a 6-digit batch. Now they went to an 8-digit batch. So if you look at our new cans and our new cream hardeners, they're going to start off with anything from last year was made in a 2, it says 23 for 23. Anything made this year is going to start off with a 24. The next 2 digits, 01 to 12. 01 is going to be for January, 06 is going to be for June, and 12 is going to be for December. So if you look at any of our products, that's a quick way to tell how old the products are when you're using them. And again, I've worked with products that have been a little bit longer in the tooth, but I always make sure that I've got a good fresh tube of cream hardener to cure the product. Because again, this is what's carrying the majority of the weight for the curing process. So when you're using the Evercoat products, always use an Evercoat cream hardener. The way you can tell for the cap, the gallon, the size that comes with the gallon, it's going to have the larger white cap. It's going to have, you can see on both of these, it's going to have the 3 diamonds. And it's also going to have a note in here, if you read around on the side of it, where it says Rocket Plastics, and it's also going to call out for ITW Permatex Canada. So those are going to let you know that this is our tube. When you're using our products, use our hardeners. If you think about it, you wouldn't go get paint company A and go get catalyst company B and use them to paint a car. Stick within a system. It's going to be the safest way to make sure that you're going to get good results. Using other cream hardeners can actually cause clogging because they didn't fully cure. It can cause an incorrect mix ratio depending on where you're getting that cream hardener, and especially if it's old, and possible post-repair issues. No one likes to do the repair free the second time. So properly catalyze, use the Evercoat hardener are going to be the best thing you're going to be able to do to help save yourself a lot of headaches.